Today we'll be taking a deeper dive into responsive classroom, specifically the practices of morning meetings and closing circles, and in a personalized twist, how they can and should be easily and authentically applied to Jewish summer camp environments. I'm Jill Goldstein-Smith.
And I'm Rachel Greenwald, presenting for Professor Jeff Kress's Fall 2018 Social Emotional Learning course at JTS. Responsive classroom is an approach to teaching that helps elementary and middle school educators to create safe and joyful learning communities where students develop strong social and academic skills and where every student can thrive. It was first developed in 1981 by a team of 6 public school teachers and has since grown to be a nationally recognized SEL teaching program. I have used responsive classroom practices in my classrooms and can attest to the positive effects of the program. Kids like it, teachers like it, administrators like it, and it works.
Sometimes, though, words don't do justice for describing the impact of relationship building. And so, just as many summer camps use promotional videos, we've included a video from the Responsive Classroom website, but feel free to look it up on your own time.
If you ask any camp director or camp board member to tell you their goals for camp, whether a day camp or an overnight camp, community building will be included in their answer. Jill and I are both steeped in the camp world and can attest to the fact that relationships formed, developed, and strengthened at camp can be the strongest and most significant in a person's life. The power of these relationships can have a ripple effect from the camp leadership to the counselors, to the campers, and to the campers' homes. Just as teachers nurture their relationships with students through positive interactions, so do counselors foster the counselor-camper relationship. Counselors must be positive role models for their campers, and camp leaders must be positive role models for the counselors. During the summer, children are outside the secure and often nurturing walls of their school. Many of them are inside the equally safe and nurturing Jewish walls of camp. Although we are talking about different walls and very different environments, both school and camp need to be safe places where children and their counselors are encouraged to take risks and feel supported.
The practices created by the responsive classroom approach address social emotional growth proactively, focusing on foundational growth in these areas. Different interventions hone in on developing different skills more acutely. Some examples include verbal and nonverbal communication skills, developing students' or campers' sense of autonomy, belonging, and competence, cultivating learners who are curious and empathetic, and increasing learners' abilities to cope, be resilient, and self-regulate their emotions. Many of these skills can be addressed through the responsive classroom practices of morning meetings and closing circle time. Here's a quick little meme reminding of the necessity to balance communication, social emotional skills we can cultivate through morning meeting practices. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak.
Adapting the core practices of responsive classroom to the camp setting gives a framework for counselors and leaders to practice and model positive behaviors, both proactively and in real time. It's important to remember that both the campers and the counselors are learners. A morning meeting gives campers a place to ground themselves in preparation for the day. It includes rituals such as greeting one another in a variety of creative ways, doing a group activity, and giving a campers a space to share some news with their friends and counselors. This is also a time for counselors to make announcements and do some social emotional learning skills teaching through role modeling and also through the explicit teaching of SEL skills.
These interventions fit into camp culture and environments organically, not forced, because team building and bonding is a natural goal and outcome of summer camp. Here on the screen, you can see some specific examples of camp-based meetings which could be improved upon by incorporating responsive classroom techniques and best practices. It's important to note that implementation at camp should not be taken lightly. There must be buy-in and investment from the staff at all levels, and proper training, including modeling, which could start with staff participating in their own morning meetings and closing circles during pre-camp orientation, and receiving ongoing feedback and encouragement. Dr. Ron Wolfson, in The Spirituality of Welcoming, writes, quote, "Greet individuals with warm welcome, appropriate to the situation, and offer connection to the community." In addition to morning meetings and closing circles being woven into camp schedule, there's great opportunity for camps to positively affect their community culture by taking lessons and techniques from these responsive classroom interventions and integrating them into everyday habits and norms throughout the schedule. Here are a few examples of lessons and practices taken from responsive classroom techniques such as morning meetings to incorporate throughout camp life.
One example of an adaptation to camp is an abbreviated version of morning meeting, which could be used at the beginning of each shiur or learning period, as a way to transition campers from the previous activity into their shiur. With small groups, greetings could reflect the day's lesson. Bruchim Haba'im could be used for a lesson on Avraham, Shabbat Shalom on Fridays. Campers can share what they recall from the previous day's shiur and think of examples relevant to life as a review. The daily message could be used as a way for Judaics teachers or specialists to introduce that day's lesson or activity.
So, how do we connect the dots among the realities of summer camp, responsive classroom practices, and Jewish education and pedagogy? Over the next few slides, we'll literally connect those dots. We know from quantitative and qualitative research, from anecdotes and personal experiences, that each and every Jewish experience can matter. What happens in an immersive Jewish context like camp can have an impact lasting longer than we can ever know. Beyond the general, Jewish content can be used in explicit curriculum to teach social-emotional skills. Camps can use Jewish values and text to inspire morning meeting, daily or weekly intentions or themes. Responsive classroom morning meetings have an emphasis on welcoming and greeting. They allow us to be seen, to say, Hineni, here I am, to engage, to help, to need help, to contribute, and to be curious. As Roxanne Crete writes about greeting as an integral part of morning meetings, quote, naming is often the beginning of knowing. Knowing names lets us call on each other, get each other's attention, enable us to ask a question, start a discussion, to request help, to offer congratulations or an apology. For some people, camp is the only place they experience Judaism, and therefore it must be a place which fosters holistic development and growth for individuals to be authentically themselves, able to be vulnerable and try new life-relevant skills. Jewish tradition teaches us to, quote, train a child according to their way. Even when they grow old, they will not turn away from it. But by being responsive to each child's needs, we reach them where they are and can support them in creating personalized, and therefore cultivating deep and authentic, connection with Jewish wisdom as it relates to being a mensch, a good member of any community. And so, we believe the responsive classroom philosophy can find a solid foundation in Jewish wisdom. Its approaches can be tangible tools for connecting the dots between social-emotional learning and Jewish camp communities.
We need to be, however, aware of the challenges that will inevitably arise. While counselors will be leading morning meetings for campers, this may be their first experience in a leadership role. Education and role modeling is as important for the counselors to receive as it is for the campers. Senior staff can save time by modeling morning meeting practices at staff training sessions, such as greetings, shares, and interactive games to promote self-confidence amongst counselors. For those of us who were counselors ourselves, we remember just how tough it was. The path from camper to counselor is a short one.
The Royal Children's Hospital in Australia actually suggests it might be time to change the span of years that define adolescence, currently defined as 10 to 19-year-olds, and they propose that it be changed to 10 to 24 years of age. We wanted to wrap up like any good camp experience does with a short campfire story.
Only our relationships endure. I was sitting on a beach one summer day watching two children, a boy and a girl, playing in the sand. They were hard at work building an elaborate sandcastle by the water's edge, with gates and towers and moats and internal passages. Just when they had nearly finished their project, a big wave came along and knocked it down, reducing it to a heap of wet sand. I expected the children to burst into tears, devastated by what had happened to all their work, but they surprised me. Instead, they ran up to the shore away from the water, laughing and holding hands, and sat down to build another castle.
I realized that they had taught me an important lesson. All the things in our lives, all the complicated structures we spend so much time and energy creating, are built on sand. Only our relationships to other people endure. Sooner or later, the wave will come along and knock down what we have worked so hard to build up. When that happens, only the person who has somebody's hand to hold will be able to laugh. From Rabbi Harold Kushner.
Social emotional skills, responsive classroom, and Jewish summer camp experiences are all ingredients to help develop strong, positive, healthy, and resilient relationships, which is what we ultimately hope our learners will take with them throughout their lives.